Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Madam President, I listened very carefully to the words from my colleague, the Senator from Eastern Fairfax, and I am dumbfounded by what I heard because there were historical inaccuracies there. I think if you go back, and I don't have the time to go back and look at the notes for the Constitutional Convention originally, if it were there, but I would remind the body that there were two things that happened in that. First of all was the structure of our legislature in Washington. And there was a lot of argument about representation from the various states. The compromise was struck to be able to balance both the population, irrespective of what the makeup of that was. You can argue about that all day long and try to justify it one way or another. But the point is, there were some states that were more populous than others. Those got more congressional votes. But then they came to the compromise that every state, irrespective of size, would have 2 senators in a House that would have equal footing, much like this body does as the Senate of Virginia, so that you don't have what was referred to then as the tyranny of the majority. Every state would be able to have the people of that state, sovereign states, would be represented appropriately. And reflective of that very form is how the Electoral College came about. None of the reasons that were just cited were actually the cause or the thoughts behind the formation of the Electoral College. It was to make certain that each individual state could not be rolled over by the more populous states. Everybody's interests had to be heard. Everybody's interests had to be heard. If we pass this, if this were to become the law, I've heard it said that we have to do what we're doing for redistricting to balance the scales because of what other states have done to Virginia. Now, I can argue against that in a variety of ways because I will tell you that we have exactly the same number of representatives going to Washington today. We will have, after we do, if the redistricting vote goes to the voters and they approve that, we will have exactly the same number of representatives there. So we're not getting more or less representation than we already have in this case. So I've always discounted that argument. But you do this, you will have ceded the will of Virginians to the more populated areas. Campaigns will be conducted in Los Angeles and in Houston and in Dallas and in Miami and in Washington, D.C. As my colleague, the senator from Roanoke said, they won't be coming to Roanoke. They won't be going down to Bristol. They won't be going out to Ohio. They won't be going out to Minnesota. They won't be going out to Wisconsin, to the regions of Wisconsin. People in Wyoming will never see a presidential candidate. That's what would happen. Their votes would be wiped away. Our votes would be wiped away. Virginians will not be represented anymore. This is a disastrously bad policy. I urge you to vote against it. Thank you, Madam President.